how did you start on your journey in technology enough to get to be a VP at ServiceNow, which is very commendable and very inspiring for a lot of people in the audience saying, how do I, get myself there, especially women in the audience. So would
Yeah.
love to hear about how you build those allies. What steps did you take? What did you start off with? And how did you get here? And where are you going next?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for hosting me here and for you guys to listen to whatever I have to sell, which I don't sell, so that's fine. But my journey wasn't like, I wouldn't call it a meteoric journey or anything like that. It's a gradual growth. I started as an engineer, mostly C++, worked in startups, built up to director in a startup in the US where we were a platform for large OEM customers, like even Microsoft was an example of such a customer when they wanted to run applications that they built for Windows. Think of Internet Explorer. They came to us and we made it possible for them without rewriting the code. They could run on an operating system on Unix and Linux without changing their code. And it wasn't really an emulation. It was just that they needed to build on top of an SDK that we offered. So I started in that as a platform. I got pretty much in love with the idea of serving developers, just like me. So that's what I fell in love with. But as I was doing that, I figured out there are a lot of challenges than just porting or making things work. You got to think about how you sustain the service, how you deal with problems when they occur, because you can't rely on people reproducing problems for you. I mean, they sometimes just can't. Things just happen, disasters happen. If you don't have signals in what happened after it happened, it's just difficult. So when I moved later into other larger organizations at Siebel and then Oracle and then ServiceNow, I focused a lot on how do we get the information of what happened without requiring a redo. So that kind of was, I guess, it's a niche that grew over time, and with that, my expertise grew, and my involvement in development organizations. I always had that, I would say, that specialty, which was not that common. It kind of helped elevate my profile in many of the situations. And when I moved at Oracle, I moved into an OCI service owner with the observability platform that we built for Oracle. And later at ServiceNow, I continued that. With ServiceNow, that's where it's a little bit of anomalous because my clientele at ServiceNow became IT operators and not developers. Not exactly the type of constituents that I really identified with, but still it was close enough. And the growth there was very significant. And that's my path.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of how he fell in love with a particular ICP, which is interesting, right?
Yeah.
And then he's picked products which are pretty unique to mold you to get there, right?
Yeah.
But did you have people who helped you get there? Did you build those relationships? Did you read any books? Or you take any classes?
I think it starts with falling in love with the problem, I guess, because I hit those problems early on. When one engagement that really inspired me when I was still working in that last startup, Mainsoft, we had customers that were running high intensity servers, and they were getting some memory corruptions and problems like that. And we couldn't just ask them. We used to send engineers over to work with them and figure out, is the problem in their code? This is essentially an unmanaged code. This is C++, C. They can do the damage themselves. We can do the damage. So it's not clear exactly who does what. I ended up talking with some guy who had the company I think still exists. It was very inspiring. The guy's name was Oliver Cole, OC Systems. And he had a system that was able to instrument our C code, C++ code, our instruction. We didn't have to build with him, I think. And he was getting events from exactly what happens, keeping them in a cyclical buffer And when the problem happened, he was able to pinpoint what were the events that occurred prior to the problem. And that really opened my eyes to where I want to focus. So people like that inspired. Along the way, I didn't always have the knowledge, the expertise. Some of these technologies are really, really, unique. There was an acquisition that we made at Oracle with people that we got from Delhi. That was the acquisition, and they were reverse engineering the JVM to take snapshots of what the JVM is doing. Again, I mean, you look at these people, you learn from them. If you get excited, if it solves a problem that you care about, I think that's very inspiring. That motivates you.
That's through and through ITSM, I guess, right? To be able to reverse engineer and figure out issues and then do it at the JVM level.
Yeah, we did that at JVM. Later in all other execution systems, JavaScript,
JVM is Java
Python.
Virtual Machine.
Yeah. So JVM, at the JVM level, I had the privilege of working with the Oracle, where we acquired the Sun and the JRocket JVM as well. So I had the chance to work with the best of the best in that, and work with them on refining their requirements on some interesting technology that they implemented in the JVM.
Yeah, I used to work in compiler research at Stanford as a graduate student, and then worked in Hewlett Packard on the competing compiler for Java
Yeah.
against Sun, and then Sun got acquired. So tell us more about what happened there. So especially with the Oracle and ServiceNow, you've been at ServiceNow for a long time too.
Yeah.
6 years. So what stage was that at, and how did you see the industry evolve, and what's happening with AI now that's kind of taking it to the next level?
So at ServiceNow, there are two. I mean, I think we when I joined ServiceNow about 6 years ago, we already did some AI. It was not the type of AI we know of today. It was the anomaly detection. It was classification.
Right.
It was things like that. I've done that also at Oracle. I think the real pivot happened, like all of us, when we saw what OpenAI was able to release out with ChatGPT. So at the beginning, my team and I were using it just as an offline tool to figure out how we can accelerate how we develop our products. Our products are very, very content rich. The organization that I worked with is an organization that discovers all software and hardware assets that large organizations have, so and puts them in what's called a CMDB, a configuration management database. Run some rules on top of it to figure out identity, to figure out risk, compliance, security concerns, and things like that. The space that we discover is always moving. It's changing all the time. Versions of software, new hardware, all of this changes all the time. And doors that are open once get closed at some other time because of security. So when we scan a network of a customer, it's a moving target. And we spend a lot of time in moving with that target. So we figured we use AI to help us move faster with the target that we have. So we used to do it as an offline effort. But then over time, my team figured out that given that we have a tool that we extend to our customers to expand our search and our scan, we should infuse that as a co-pilot into that tool. So especially for open APIs, if you do cloud discovery, if you guys know Wiz, they're doing a similar thing. So especially for APIs that are open, it's very good. AI is extremely good in spelling out what needs to happen and validating what you're doing and writing code for you. So we trained it, we edited it as a co-pilot to discovery designer that we have. We call it a pattern designer. We edited it. It was able to accelerate how we produce content 20, 30x of what we were doing before we added it. Then we started looking at other places where it makes sense to add AI in terms of automation tools. So ServiceNow is a lot about ticketing systems, different type of tickets, workflows, automation of the tickets. So if you want to get ITSM, if you want to get replace your computer or the battery on your computer, you file a ticket. There's an ITSM agent, human being, that is going to look at it, figure it out, move it around. Some of it is going to be automated with a vendor, all of those things. Some of this is going to be automated, some of it is going to be manual. We decided that it would be very useful to observe all of these actions that are being taken on those tickets and automate them with AI. So one of the more recent features that my organization released last year was about that, is collecting all that information that we have already, classifying, understanding the repeated work, understanding the cost of doing all of this toil and the opportunity to optimize, and giving automation architects a good view of value versus cost of automating, and also helping with creating playbooks and agents that would execute the playbooks.
So that's from the product perspective. Tell me more about what happened in your army of engineers. How big was your team of developers, and how were they using AI? Were you ever paranoid about them using, like, ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude now, and just sending it off to a third party, which is all your IP being shipped off, right? How do you protect that?
Yeah, there's always that. So yeah, I had a team of about 170 total, 170 engineers. There was always some concern that they will send some information out, but I think we gave training, we gave guidelines, we gave access to our own AI gateway, to our own service. So some of it we were able to deal with. I'm pretty sure engineers still send snippets of information to their own private account, and it was not.
So you didn't lock it down and not allow them, like a bank, to be able to access the internet?
No, we do not. No, we did not lock. I mean, I think on that part, I would probably say the risk is not as high as people think, and the risk of locking down access is far higher than allowing access.
What would the risk be? Would you think people quit, or what would it be?
No, I think they just don't learn. If you lock it down, people get. I mean, they get fossilized in what they're used to do. You want them to experiment. You want them to try. You want them to complain that the Copilot of Microsoft doesn't work as well as Claude. So you move to Claude because they try Claude and we didn't offer it.
Did you land up checking how many code check-ins are each developer doing, and fire the people who have?
No. We never went to that extent. We did track. We always tracked who's using AI. The culture at ServiceNow, which I appreciate, has never been such a cutthroat culture. When we did return to office, we told people, you got to be in the office. If you're flexible, you're within 40 minutes drive, you got to be in the office at least 2 days a week, not 3, 2 days a week. We tracked it. We nudged people that didn't come in a way, but we tolerated. We gave leeway. People that wanted to come to the office, they came to the office. People that didn't, there was no.
So you didn't see any productivity changes enough to cut like a certain % of your staff because now AI can code on their behalf?
I don't think we have not seen that. I mean, part of it also, we were a little bit slow to get value for the development team because our system is we don't do like Python and JavaScript or TypeScript that is completely greenfield. It all ties with systems that we have. So what we needed to do first is we needed to prepare the data for AI to be more useful for us, because our development environment, usually if you think about how people develop, they develop with our own tools. They don't develop with VS Code. So we need to bridge that.
So you had your own IDE?
Yeah, it's in
Yeah?
the product. So most of it is low code also, but it's mostly in the
So it's
product.
like plugins that you're building on your ServiceNow platform itself.
Yeah. So some of my teams actually, because I had platforms, so some of my teams benefited from because it was like, for example, they write in Golang or they write in Java.
Right.
So these were microservices teams or kind of a more of a separate tool that is not part of the bigger joint platform monolith. So these teams actually benefited in a way, but they were skeptical. It took time. They were skeptical. They were doing mostly unit testing, enhancing the automation, the unit tests. That's where they gained more productivity.
Where do you think it's going to go next with AI adoption? How is it going to change within the organization and outside in terms of adoption of the product? Do you have any sense of that?
I think the biggest problem that people have right now is I mean they know they can generate a lot of code. I mean in most environments you can generate a lot of code. What's not very clear is how do you verify the quality of that code, and how do you not uh, land with an engineering team that commits stuff and doesn't know what it does. And in conversations that I had, even just this week, one of VPs that I'm in networking with just raised a question and said, my team last month, team of 200 engineers,
Yeah.
checked in 2 million lines of code in 1 month.
Wow.
What?
So
Have you talked to the legal department about the possible issues?
About that or in general?
Having code that nobody really knows where it came from. Not because you're stealing it, but because it might do something unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where the concern is. So, I talked with another person, an architect that was doing a code review. He was reviewing this commit and calling the engineer that put the pull request in and said, okay, I don't understand what that thing does in your code. Said that makes the two of us. So
they say that in YC, there was a statement that 80% of the code that's being generated is all autopilot generated.
yeah, people are. I mean,
And
that's
I
what I
think
was saying.
it
That
just
too.
takes them to market faster. I'm writing checks in founders who hit $1 million in revenues in like 4 months. So they found a problem, solved it, sold it. Now they can sit and rewrite the code if
Yeah.
needed and do code check-ins and
So
be a ServiceNow. So meanwhile, ServiceNow will
yeah.
become like a dinosaur. Aren't you afraid of that?
No, well, I'm not. But okay, go ahead. Sorry.
One important comment.
Yeah.
As a college professor, it's much faster to grade a paper than to write a paper.
Yeah.
So software engineers should be grading the output.
Exactly. So on the way here, I was driving and I was toying with the idea: what if we had coding agents that intentionally inject errors in their code and see if the developer catches them, and if they don't catch them, they say you did not review my code.
Just imagine if it hallucinates on that.
Think about it that way, right? I mean, this is a way where you would make sure that
So when was
that
the last
human
time
beings.
you wrote code, Michael? I had to ask him.
A few days ago, but it's not me. It was Vibe Code. So yeah. But I when I do that, I asked the
Your
this
architect
was
who was
close.
really strict to do the code review?
I asked the agent to tell me what it does,
Okay.
because and then I
Explain the
review it.
code.
So
Yeah.
because to be honest, I mean Python is not my best language, and that's where most of the code that I'm playing with right now is.
Yeah.
My best language is still going to be C++, C, and Java.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
last real code that I wrote was actually a mix of Java, GenAI, and C that really made it out as a product. And its purpose was to attach to a JVM and inject it with an agent.
Ah,
So, that's the last code that I wrote.
Very
And it was at Oracle, like a real code that made it to production.
production. Any last words of advice for our audience? What book to read? Whom to follow?
I think we're still in the place where if we put too many blockers on developers, on ourselves, we're going to be slowing ourselves too hard. But important thing is really to identify where are we willing to take risks, in what information, what data, what IP, and that we have to protect really well because there's no safety. But thinking about just blocking people, governing too much, is just
freedom enhances creativity.
Yeah. I agree. Exactly.
Yeah, so big round of applause for Michael. Audience, anybody have a question for Michael? We can take one or two. Yes.
Okay.
James, I work in AI, software engineering, and also architecture background. I've spoken to IT architects, and the main issue is there's a lot of people who want stuff to be automated. So who will you roll with? Like, what if this guy just wants it for a day? It's a bespoke solution. And how do you get feedback on choosing which features to prioritize for the platform?
So maybe I need a little bit of clarity. So you're saying, how do you know if something belongs in the product or it's one-off?
In IT, there's a lot of different demands from different people.
Yeah.
Who are you going to please first, and how do you decide? What's your mental?
How do you prioritize your ideal customer profile?
Well, it's like any other thing. I mean, you gotta figure out if it's a unique requirement or not. And even for unique, even when you have a unique requirement, there's going to be some layers to it. Some of it is going to be a good foundation for other unique requests like this, and some of it when you get to a place where somebody is asking a complete one-off that is very unique, that's no longer product development in my mind. This is more of services that you're offering, and that's fine. It's good business. Sometimes we use partners for things like that. We use partners, but often, to your point, we worked with customers that were just ahead of us. They had a new tech stack that they wanted to figure out exactly what it does. We knew they're ahead of us. The question was, do we want to change the timeline of what we are working, the roadmap of what we're working right now, and be ahead and matching with them? Or do we say, you got to wait, pace, and wait for us? In the meantime, we'll give you some workarounds, but we're going to be there in a year from now. So there's a lot of different ways of dealing with disruption of your vision or roadmap, because you got to be opinionated about where you're headed. By the way, that's true very much for startups. Startups sometimes feel like they got to satisfy the next customer, the immediate customer. But if you lose focus of what your North Star is, that is very risky for startups. Big companies like big organizations like mine, I could put 15 people on something that is off to the side, and they're going to work on something, and maybe we end up not productizing it. It won't be a big difference. But for a startup to start talking, one of the startups that I worked on, we had 2 products, and the one that we started with, and then we started pivoting to a bigger product. And pretty soon after we got traction on the bigger product, we completely shut down the smaller product that already had some tracking, but we shut it down because we wanted to focus.
So thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah. You definitely didn't follow the script, so you know.
I didn't read it to follow it.